Our special guest this week, the greatest playoff performer in NLL history, Colin Popeye Doyle. And Gerry Cooney drops by to talk about Shawn Porter versus Terence Crawford. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show coming up.
And we've got another great one for you today, folks. Glad you're here and glad our guests are here. First of all, he played in the WLA and MSL with Coquitlam Adanacs, Brampton Excelsiors, and Six Nations Chiefs. He made 7 trips to the Mann Cup finals. He won it 5 times. He's a 5-time member of the Canadian team that won 3 world titles. He played 19 pro seasons of lacrosse, 15 with the Toronto Rock, longtime Rock captain, former NLL Rookie of the Year. He was first or second in Rock scoring for 7 consecutive years, 587 goals, 939 assists in 299 games. He led the Rock to 6 NLL titles, a former NLL MVP, NLL playoff MVP 3 times. That is a record, ladies and gentlemen. Recently elected to the NLL Hall of Fame. Welcome to the program, Colin Popeye Doyle. Colin, glad you're here, my friend.
Morning. Thanks for having me. Very kind words.
Thank you. Just the way you wrote it, just the way you wrote it. No, it's just the way our crack research team got it together. Listen, first of all, I want to go right back to the beginning. What drew you to the sport of lacrosse? How did you end up in the game?
Nothing in particular. It was the only sport, on sign-up night at the mall that my brother and I could sign up together for. They were hurting for numbers, and my brother, who was 2 years older than me, we were both looking for a summer sport to play. I think I was 3 and he was 5, and lacrosse said, yeah, we'll take you both, put you in the same team, and that's that. That's the story. That's how we started playing this great game.
Well, and you played well all the way up. You had a great career as a junior. You made the jump to pro at 19. You were Rookie of the Year for the Ontario Raiders. Tell us about making that leap from junior lacrosse to the pros.
Yeah, I was went pretty smooth for me. I was cut the year before. I was at a training camp in Rochester for the Nighthawks as maybe a 17-year-old, and I thought I had a good camp, but ultimately I think the rule back then was they could only keep 6 Canadians, so I must have been one of the odd men out. So I went back, played another year junior, felt like – with the experience of having been to a pro camp, when I showed up for the Hamilton team the next year, I just felt a little more ready. And obviously in Hamilton, they could keep all the Canadians they wanted to. So there's no threshold there or anything. So I felt good. I felt like I could score immediately. Obviously there's a million other things I needed to work on, but at the time, fit in, move the ball, move your feet, be a good teammate, listen, and score. And I try to simplify it as much as possible. And, in those days I had, so many great people around me help show me the way. So just got off to a good start, and just the transition was smooth. I don't know how else to say it. It went tremendously well for me. A lot of those roadblocks that young players hit, for whatever reason, they didn't present themselves in my career.
Were there any challenges that you had to overcome on the way? Anything that sort of set you back a little bit, or something you had to deal with personally, or anything else? Yeah.
No, to be honest with you, it was heads down and play, and we won early. Our year in Hamilton was okay, but we kind of found ourselves as a team, and then I think we won 4 of the last 5 games of the season. And had we got into the playoffs, we would have likely steamrolled everybody. We just had that good feeling. It just took us a little while to get it. And then we moved to Toronto the next year, and only good things happened. We drew incredible crowds. The team was incredibly good. We won championship after championship. And, it was a long time till on the pro side, things weren't happening. Good things weren't happening. Of course, there was hiccups along the way, little things, a couple bad games strung together here and there, but no significant losing streaks, no major injuries. So honestly, it was a good run for me. I would say that things went particularly well.
Well, let's talk about that move to Toronto. And you talked about it. The crowds were great. There was a buzz in Toronto. Things were happening, and the Toronto Rock were a big deal. And I remember going to the games, and everybody who went to those games and still goes to NLL games today comments on the fact of how much fun there is, what a great fan experience it is. And what was it like from a player's standpoint coming to Toronto and all of a sudden things just clicking?
Well, it was incredible. I mean, again, nobody saw it coming. One day we're playing in Hamilton to, moderately pretty good crowds, 4,000 to 6,000 for a lacrosse player. That's pretty significant. But, the next season we start in Toronto, and really we don't know what to expect. And then, the home opener, I think, had 13 or 14,000 people there at the Old Garden, and it was hot and stuffy. And, the place just went nuts. They went bananas for everything that happened. And I don't think there was any rhyme or reason. It was a new sport, something fun. There was lots of beer being had, kids, adults, everybody was there kind of having the same good time for a million different reasons. And we kind of use that as a platform to deliver this incredible experience to people. It was affordable. And then above all that, we started winning. And, I think that the town was desperate for a winner, and timing's everything in pro sports sometimes. And for 5 or 6 years there, we had a pretty good stronghold on being an important part of the sports scene in Toronto. And, people will forget about that as time passes, obviously, with the success of the Raptors and probably the Leafs heading in some sort of a right direction here at some point. But, for a long stretch there, those teams weren't good and we were winning. And I think people were drawn to that.
Yeah, it was just a couple years after the Jays had their 2-year run. And so, we had some success and some at some levels, but I liked what you said about the Leafs, and maybe someday, somehow, some things could be maybe heading in the right direction. We're all hoping that anyway. But six trips to the championship game in 7 years and 5 NLL titles. Tell us about those teams, and what was it about those teams that brought about that success?
Yeah, I think it was just well coached, well made up. The coaches and the general manager kind of assembling those teams really knew what they wanted, and it was a defense first mentality. We had the best goalie in the game, and Bobby Watson. And when you talk to anybody playing any sport or anybody dealing with sports, if you have a great defense and a great goaltender, you're well on your way. And we had that. And offensively, where I partook, we had a good team chemistry all the time. And, there was people who had better years or better nights here and there, but, essentially as a group, we found ways to win games. And I think that was kind of our hallmark. We wouldn't blow you out. We'd have some nights, and some of those teams were assembled a little differently, but the early years, it was defense first. Don't turn the ball over. Look after your end. Let our defense do their job. Score when we need to, and it worked. It worked well. And then, as we get into the 2005 championship, everything changed. It was an offense-first team, new management, new coach. And for whatever reason, all of a sudden we had 300-point players, and it was beat team 17-14 instead of 10-9. So we kind of did it a few different ways, but the hallmark at the start was definitely defense first, and rely on that world-class goalie you have and keep the game in front of you. And it worked well. And the rest of the league eventually caught up with it. And I think a big part of the group and a big part of the league now builds defense first. And I think that was heavily based on, the blueprint that the Rock put in place early 2000s. And there's probably 10 people from those teams coaching across the NLL. And I imagine, what they know, what worked for them is what they're passing on to the players nowadays.
Yeah, it really worked for you guys. And of course, Whipper Watson was a big part of that. The offensive thing you talked about, what was your preference? Would you prefer to win a game 17-14, or did you like those defensive shutdown, rely on Whipper?
I mean, I preferred to win games. So whatever I was told was best. It was frustrating sometimes because when you want to be a marquee offensive player, you want to score a lot and you want to, but I mean, I think if it had gone the other way for me, where we came out of the gates as a pure offensive team and then had to revert to being a defensive team, it would have been much more challenging. But the fact that I kind of got my feet under me, understanding the defensive first principles, I think it was easier than when we got the opportunity to kind of open the offense up. It was great. We had at it. It was fun, but I understood the importance of defense first. So I don't know which I preferred. 2005 was some kind of fun year. We just couldn't seem to miss, and everybody was rolling. But that doesn't happen all the time. It was just special, and I think the reality is when you lean on defense first, it's far more consistent. And so yeah, at times it felt like my hands were tied, but ultimately, if you wanted to win, you had to buy in. So it was good. But there were times in my career where we had open up offenses, and I enjoyed those too.
Well, actually, we have a goal from one of the many beauties that you scored along the way. This is against Rochester. You guys were wrapping up a power play, and you went between the legs on this one right there. Now we're going to have another look at that in the slow-mo because it happened so fast you might not be able to see it. But this is an incredible goal that you scored. And you scored a lot of incredible goals. Let's face it. But you particularly rose to. Here's a replay. And you're going to set up in front of the net, and here it comes. Between the legs, boom. That was a pretty goal.
It sure was. Yeah. It's bringing me back. The thing,
yeah, so tell me something. Yeah, go ahead.
The funny thing with creativity, I was, even in the years where we were defensive first, I had coaches that, to an extent, let me be me. And I never felt bound by anything. I would try lots of different stuff. And there were times where a coach would pull me aside privately and say, hey, look, maybe too much. But more often than not, coaches let me away with it. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But it was, creativity is something that's kind of gets lost in the game today. And I'm all for it because you do get wonderful moments like that. But even on the defensive first teams, the coach had enough patience and enough rope with me, enough leash with me to say, hey, look, listen, you can do it, but when you can't. So I guess looking back at that, I don't know if anybody could get away with that, but it was fun.
Well, you did it more than once. So you had some great goals. Now, also, like playoff time, that's when you really rose to the occasion. You were a 3-time NLL playoff MVP. What was it about the playoffs that brought the best out of you, or what happened to you in the playoffs?
I think in the playoffs. Well, I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, I hated to lose. So no matter what, I was going to do everything I could to make sure our team won the game. And I think that the underlying factor in all of that was that I wanted to win. I hated to lose. But on top of that, I don't think the moment really scared me. I enjoyed having the ball on my stick and times it counted, and I enjoyed, having to put a team on my back if I had to. But I think it all falls back to that simple fact that, the will to win, outweighed everything else that might be a deterrent for some players in playoff time. It wasn't for me because, I really wanted to win. I wanted to win so bad.
Well, you played, as you say, to win. You played hard. You weren't a particularly big guy, but you certainly were fearless. And lacrosse is a sport where, it can get nasty at times. And when fights break out, they unlike skates, you can really plant your feet and throw them. And we do have a little bit of you getting into it with a little bit bigger opponent. The guy's name is Paul Dawson of the Bandits. One tough dude. He had about a foot on you in this contest. But, you're hanging in there. This was one of the toughest guys in lacrosse. And, tell us about this.
That was my first game back. I'd been traded away from Toronto for 3 years, and they paid a lot to get me back with the new ownership group. And this was the first home game back. And, I felt like it was the right thing to do, at that time, to kind of show my teammates what it means to be back and show the fans what this team meant to me. And maybe I'm glad I'm still standing after that, to be honest with you. He was a tough guy.
Yeah, you can see it, man. The guy's got leverage. He's big. It's like fighting a heavyweight. It really is. It's like getting it on with Lennox Lewis out there. They can't go extremely well, but give you credit because you hung in there. And if there's anybody who could ever be named Captain Rock, it would definitely be you. You talk about that trade. You ended up going to San Jose. Then the Rock went into rebuild mode, but then they wanted to bring it back. And I know owner Jamie Dowlick really wanted you back. And Vic, do we have a clip on that? I wasn't sure if we were able to find that or not. But
I was happy to be wearing the C when we were able to win that championship, because it was a really good feeling for me to come home and win.
When I bought the team, we were coming off, the team, no one thought our team was going to be anything for a few years, and instantly got our team right back into the mix. And, I got his jersey there that he wore in that game. So, his last championship, and, something a prized possession for me.
So now, yeah, you came back, you won that championship. Was it different than the rest?
Well, for sure. I mean, the pressure that I had put on myself, the pressure that I kind of felt along with being brought back, with the sole purpose of getting the franchise back on track. I mean, that wasn't lost on me. I put enough pressure on myself, but with everything else. But I felt like the franchise had been kind of heading in the wrong direction, and with Jamie's kind of fresh blood into it, and kind of the coaching staff back and everything, it was perfect timing. We got to the championship in my first year back, Jamie's first year on, and we lost, and it's maybe one that got away from us. But to come back the next year, it's extremely hard to do that, and to win in Toronto again felt amazing. It was different than all the others, because this one felt like it was just with an entirely different cast. To some extent, all the other ones, other than myself and Bobby, and a few of the staff, most of the people had been around for most of the other ones. This one just felt like it was brand new. So it was I took a lot of pride in that championship, and it was different than all the others. But it wasn't. When you win, you always find you got great games out of people that you didn't expect it, and that people always rose to the occasion. And championship teams have that, and we had that in spades, I guess, on that team as well.
Well, and you know what? You're back with the team now as an associate coach coming out of the pandemic. What do you? First of all, the pandemic, leveled a number of sports, and lacrosse certainly wasn't exempt. There was the playoffs were scrapped in 2020, no season last year, but now we're back. And there was a time, I'm sure, when folks feared that this day might not happen, when you would be able to come back and play. Were you concerned?
Oh, without question. I mean, if any sport's going to go, it's this one. It's just enough on the fringe that, people have to kind of spend a lot of money on this to keep this thing moving. And the owners, I think, to their credit, have done an amazing job keeping this thing moving forward. And I'm happy to see it back. And, it's not easy on people that have to spend the money to see these things through. And even now that it's going forward again, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. With travel and with the protocols and all those other things to make this happen. And it'd be so easy for people to say, let's be done with it. But, the onus now is on the team and everybody involved to make it a great product again, and to remind people what they have been missing. And hopefully the new home in Hamilton, I know that town well. They can get behind them. They've proven that over the years with their professional sports franchises, and hopefully give the city of Hamilton something to be proud of. And I think, if we look back at history of the Toronto Rock, it's the biggest thing that happened was putting it on TV and making sure we won. And to me, that was the equation for success. And, I'm truly hopeful that we can see that happen again.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the move. You guys train in Oakville, which is not very far from Hamilton, so that's an easy move for you. The track center is in Oakville, so but Hamilton, I guess it's a venue that just makes it a little more sense for all parties concerned at this point. Probably,
yeah,
in terms of logistics, right?
Yeah, like anything, it's logistics, it's costs. I'm sure it's all those things, and I wasn't privy to all those conversations in the move, but I think the fact of the matter is you're likely looking at. I think this year all our home games are Saturday nights, and that was hard to get in Toronto with everything else going on. And I think, to me, if you're going to invest the time and energy and money to go down to a lacrosse game, Saturday night certainly suits people a lot better, because it won't just be people from Hamilton attending. It'll be people from all over southwestern Ontario, and that's always kind of been a staple with the Rock. And getting in and out of Toronto on a Friday night is difficult at the best of times. And I think, dates had something to do with it, but I'm sure it's probably significantly cheaper. And I think with some of the money that, you can start to do some different things marketing wise. And I think, the ability to maybe have some great corporate partners in Hamilton that want to align themselves with a great franchise. Maybe, that template looks a little different in Hamilton than it would downtown Toronto. So I think all those things, again, they're all out of my realm of understanding, but been around the game long enough, that's how I would see this. Where my focus is trying to help create a great team again. And my job is pretty small at this point, but to try to get championship lacrosse back in Ontario and in Hamilton is important to me.
Well, let's talk about the team you're with right now. It's training camps are underway now. You played your first preseason game last weekend. The offense was good, 13 goals, but you lost 15-13 to Saskatchewan. In preseason, though, you're looking at a lot of players who are not going to be there very long because, as a matter of fact, the team made 7 cuts last night. So, clearly what you're going to see in the next preseason game is different from what we saw in the last season preseason game. But what are your thoughts after what you've seen so far?
I mean, I've been impressed, but I would be at any training camp and be impressed at this point. The speed and the size of these players is great, and that goes across the board. Even some of the players we would have had to have cut were great lacrosse players. But looking at things, if you start to kind of look at how this roster takes shape, we have everything, all the ingredients to be great. We've got size and speed, and we've got gifted offensive players. We've got good transition players. Our goaltending should be solid. We have all the parts, but most of those parts have been here in the past too, and the team hasn't been able to get there. So, now it's about kind of just looking at things and trying to understand why. Everybody's a couple years older now, but experience hasn't come with that because they haven't played lacrosse. So, I don't know. The early look is good. I love what I see, but it's not going to be easy because, like I said, if you looked at Saskatchewan on the weekend, that there was a lot of good things to look at there too. So I think the reality is once we get their roster trimmed up, get another step forward this weekend with the exhibition game, get a little closer to what our final roster is going to look like. And then at that point, you start to really fine-tune things and prepare for the season. But, overall, I've been really impressed with everybody that's been at camp. It's an incredibly high level of lacrosse out there and compete.
Yeah, right. And, Nick Rose is the type of guy who's given you guys solid goaltending in the past. And I can see that. And Tom Schreiber is an exciting player. Lots of things to like about, his game.
Yeah. Tom Schreiber and Challen Rogers and Bobby Hellier, they're all game breakers. And, Dan Dawson brings an element of experience to us and hopefully still a good chunk of points, important points and important IQ up front. And then our left side, I think, is still pretty unknown to the professional world. And I think it's going to be a big onus on those guys to step up and find out who they are. And that'll be in part our job to help them discover that. But, the pieces are there. There's no question. We should be able to score some goals and we should be fun to watch and hopefully have us good high level of creativity as well.
There's some exciting stuff coming down the pipe here for the NLL. The announcement not that long ago of the Las Vegas franchise joining the league, I think next season, and Wayne Gretzky's involved. And what were your thoughts when you heard about this happening, and how does that bode for the future?
Well, I mean, to have people like that involved I don't think you can go wrong. Those are winners. Those are people that want to see things do well. Beyond having unlimited amounts of money, it's obviously something they believe in or they're interested in, they're excited about. So I think that's exciting. It reminds me of when the Rock ownership bought into this thing originally in Hamilton. If I'm not mistaken, there was 7 or 8 NHL guys, Ty Domi, Bobby Orr, there was a whole, and that got people excited back then. And I see it doing the same thing now. And obviously once you get that going, people move away from, well, who owns this team? And they move into, this is a team I can get behind. This is a team I can cheer for. This is a team I want to be around. So it worked in Hamilton and Toronto way back when. It's Vegas. Everything to date has worked in Vegas, and it's an amazing town. And with ownership like that, I think the league ought to be excited. The right people are getting behind this game.
Yeah, no kidding. You're right about that. I mean, the hockey team did incredibly well. The football team is doing very well. Gretzky was involved in the Argos at one point way back when, and that team really took off. I mean, there's a good buzz going. Can you feel the buzz? Can you sense the buzz around the league from other lacrosse people you've talked to?
You can, and then the game's back on TSN here in Canada, and it's on ESPN down. And again, maybe it's not the biggest TV deal in the world, but it's I truly believe that back in the day, part of the reason the Rock became so popular is because people they had access to it, they could see it. And I know that the landscape of kind of entertainment has changed, but the fact that people could follow along with the team when they weren't playing at home and they knew the players and they knew the brand, I think it was super important to the success of the team. And I know it cost ownership a lot of money back then. But they did it, and the investment paid off. And if you get that same, even a scrape of that down south in the States, if people can start watching this game from their home, I think you'll see it will take off because, it is an exciting game to watch, and it's just got to be branded properly and get out to the right people. And I think I've always believed that. We're never going to be the NHL or the NBA, and that's fine. But there's a spot there for a sport like lacrosse to have tremendous success, give people an opportunity to play it professionally. So I hope we're heading in the right direction. And like you said, coming out of this pandemic is going to be a challenge, but everybody's ducks should be in a row, and we should be able to hit this thing pretty hard. And again, the brand sells. So if the lacrosse is great and we can get it out there, people will watch it.
Yeah, lacrosse is not an unknown down in the States. They play the outdoor game for a long, long time. I mean, the Americans had won 24 straight titles until you guys ended that streak in when it was 2006 when you beat them at the World Championships. That must have been a fun experience for you.
Well, that was incredible. That was my first time ever making the men's team. I'd been cut 2 times prior and disappointed for sure, but to get that opportunity to play for your country at that level and then beat them, it was incredible. Now every year since then, Canada's right in the mix. I think they won it in 2012. Something like that. And then, I think the last one here, whenever we had the last one, they lost in overtime. So the landscape is slowly changing. Canada's they're at the front of the field lacrosse game too, which I think is exciting for the game here in Canada. That's a whole nother conversation. Lacrosse at the kind of the young level coming out of the pandemic is going to be a challenge. And just like the Rock did in the early 2000s, this could be an opportunity for the Rock again to get people excited, young kids excited about playing this game, being around, watching great players. Kids have a choice of what they want to do. And I felt like in the 2000s when this game was on TV, a lot of kids chose lacrosse over other summer sports, and there was a huge flux of kids playing. And, it's going to need that coming out of this next summer as well.
Well, that's great. Let's hope that things take off. I'm excited about it. I can't wait. And it's your next preseason game hosting Colorado on Saturday. I guess that's at the Toronto Rock Center. And then the season opens December 5th, First Ontario Center, home to Albany. Looking forward to that.
Can't wait to get started. Thanks a million for having me on talking lacrosse. It's always great to be chatting.
Well, listen, Colin, thanks for being on the show today, and it's been great catching up. And enjoy the new digs, and congratulations on your recent election into the Hall of Fame. And as a guest on Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show, we've got some great Italian clothing for you from Classica Imports. I'll hook you up with our friend Jeff, and he'll set you up real good. And thanks for being on the show. And remember, we're all in it together. When we come back, Gerry Cooney is going to join us.
Hey, I'm Canadian rocker Tommy Gunn, and you got more Joe Tilley Sports coming up.
Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top of the line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com.
Excuse me. Have you heard of the new Divot app?
There's a Divot app?
No. But there is a divot. And we're going to have to do something about that. It's simple. Just pick up the divot and replace it. All sorted. Have a good round.
Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca.
All right, time for my COSA Swiss pick of the week. Last week, Ken Middleton and I went into the Mystic Moon with Chris Christoforou driving in the third race. Now, he made the move at the half, held off a challenge from 67 to one-shot code 3. Late in the stretch, Sylvain Foulion pulled out with Pull Me Through, and he interfered with another horse in doing so. Even though Pull Me Through crossed the line first, he was relegated to 7th spot for the indiscretion, and that gave the win to our horse. Yay! Into the Mystic Moon. The 10-1 exacta paid $128, but that horse, that Pull Me Through horse, pulled through in impressive fashion, just even though he was disqualified. And so that takes us to our Swiss pick of the week. And we're going to take the number 3 horse, put your bet down. Jonathan Drury's going to drive. And our pal Ken Middleton likes that 7 horse, Pull Me Through, to pull it out again in the same race. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take $5 to win place on both horses. And I'm going to do a $2 exacta box, 3 and 7. I'm going to box my horse with Ken's horse. After the smoke clears this week, my bankroll is now $82, up a couple of bucks from last week. Remember, for all the racing updates, visit COSA TV on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Mohawk Park is holding 3 pop-up series to be contested in the next few weeks, with no nomination or starting fee required. Any horses who are non-winners of $25,000 in 2021 and have made a minimum of 10 starts are eligible to enter into the pop-up series. Go to hpibet.com for all your wagering options. All right, our next guest, one of my favorite people. He hails from Long Island, New York, Huntington, trained at Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn. As an amateur, he was a 2-time New York Golden Gloves champion. Professional record of 28-3 with 24 knockouts, one of the best left hooks of all time, one of the heaviest hitters in the heavyweight division, challenged for the heavyweight championship of the world 2 times. Ladies and gentlemen, Gerry Cooney.
Hey, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Listen, by the way, I trained at Gleason's Gym, but at that time, it was on 30th Street and 8th Avenue in Manhattan, no Brooklyn at that time.
Oh,
we went to Brooklyn,
no Brooklyn
usually.
at that time.
We had a great gym. We had Roberto Duran, home. Everybody came through that place. So it was a great time. Great gym.
Yeah, okay. Gleason's Gym in Manhattan, yes. Okay, so first of all, you're half Canadian. We want to just touch on that once again, because I know your grandparents were from Newfoundland. Tell us about your dad's side of the family, right? Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was from Newfoundland, St. John's, and he left when he was like 17 and became a merchant marine. But I've always been trying to get up there. I mean, I get to Canada a lot. I love Canada, the Canadian people. I love Canada. And I've had a big plan set up to go up to St. John's, and I had to cancel because I had a previous engagement. So sometime soon I'm going to get there.
Well, next time you're in Toronto, look us up, because we got dinner and a few other things we're going to take care of, and nice. And we're going to have some fun, and we're looking forward to your visit. Maybe when I get to New York in the next little while, who knows? Things are going to open up, hopefully. One thing that's opening up is the sport of boxing, and we got a big fight to talk about. It's a big showdown: Terence Bud Crawford versus Shawn Showtime Porter for the WBO welterweight title at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. Saturday night. Terence Bud Crawford, the WBO welterweight champion, 37-0, 28 knockouts, 34 years old, 5'8". But check out this reach for a guy 5'8", 74 inches. That's long. He turned pro in 2008, hails from Omaha, Nebraska, a southpaw who can switch it up, and he will be facing, like a lot of guys won't get in the ring with our friend Mr. Crawford, but here's one that will. Shawn Showtime Porter, 31-3-1 with 17 knockouts, 35 years old. He's 5'7", but check out his reach, only an inch shorter. His reach is only 59.5, or 69.5. Hails from Akron, Ohio. Good things happen in Akron, Ohio, as we know. He started as a super middleweight, moved down, former WBO, WBA, IBF champion. His last fight was a unanimous decision over Sebastian Formella 15 months ago. Crawford's last fight was against Kell Brook about a year ago. So, Gerry, let's break this down. First of all, Errol Spence is waiting in the wings, hopefully at some point for one of these guys. We have one guy who has fought Errol Spence before. That's Shawn Porter. How do these two measure up, in your opinion? Porter and Crawford.
Crawford and Porter, I think it's a great fight. Obviously, Crawford has a lot of championships under his belt. He won all the divisions at 140, moved up. The thing that I see with him, he throws very long punches. And the guys that really have good amateur careers, you got to throw 6, 8, 10-inch punches, nice and short inside. And sometimes if he catches Showtime Shawn Porter, he could, take him out of it with that power. But if Shawn Porter does what he's got to do and get inside, and there you go, there goes Porter going down there from a left hook from a relatively not a great puncher, Adrian Verona, but sometimes you just get caught like that. But he fought back, he won that fight, and he's a beast of endurance. He doesn't get tired. He stays on your chest the whole time. He may come out and try and box against Terence Crawford, but I think what's going to happen is he's going to have to get inside and to rough Crawford up with body shots and body shots and body shots, and if he's got a chance. And hopefully he doesn't get caught with that punch coming in. If he gets caught with one of Crawford's punches, Crawford's a very good finisher, and that's what makes it a great, interesting fight, that these are two top guys who've never fought before. You talked about Errol Spence is trying to get in there with Terence Crawford. But the money's a problem. Everybody wants all the money. So we're going to have to see what goes on. It's going to be interesting to see how it works out. But I'm excited. I'll be sitting in the front row watching from my home.
Right. Yeah. So now that's the thing about when I look at this. When you think of how much reach that Porter's given up, 4.5 inches. He's got to get on top of him. He can't stay outside. And as you mentioned before, Crawford's got the power. He's got those long punches. If Porter gets on the end of that power, he's probably not going to stand a chance. One thing I like about both guys will come to fight. Both guys will fight anybody. Nobody's ever ducked anybody. If you look at some of the guys that they fought, like some of Crawford's wins, Yorkis Gamboa, Amir Khan, Brook, he knocked out Brook, Jose Benavidez, Julius Ndongo to unify the super lightweight titles. Felix Diaz, John Molina, Yurkis Gamboa, Victor Pistol. A lot of these guys went into this fight with Crawford undefeated, and obviously they weren't. Crawford finished these guys off. What are your thoughts about him being the finisher that he is? Will he get this done?
Well, listen, here's the story with him. He was a 140-pounder, 135-pounder, moved up. Showtime Shawn Porter was a 168-pound fighter. So he obviously is the bigger, stronger guy. And the thing is, yes, if Crawford catches Porter from the outside, he can hurt him. But Showtime Shawn Porter has the will to get inside, to make that move and just keep his defense up, and he can get and make it a rough Crawford up. Crawford's never really been roughed up before. This guy can do it for him. And you can see him here. He's boxing. He's not a bad boxer too, but I think that he can't box against Terence Crawford for too long, because Crawford's a good boxer. He's got great movement, and what a great fight this was. Ugas and Shawn Porter. But listen, it's a great, spectacular fight. It's a fight. It could be fight of the year. if these guys can keep their plan, you train in that gym and you got a couple of plans to go by, and you're going to make adjustments, and you got to get. Porter's got to get inside and keep himself inside, and don't give Crawford the distance to stick that jab all night long and land that straight right hand. And he's also a great left hooker. So listen, both these guys are very dangerous, Joe.
Well, yeah, and Porter is busy. I mean, the guy is nonstop action, and he did beat Ugas, who beat Pacquiao. So I mean, that's a pretty impressive win over that. But he lost a split decision to Errol Spence, and it was a controversial split decision. Beat Danny Garcia. Of course, Verona, we talked about that. Paulie Malignaggi's beaten Andre Berto, Julio Diaz. He'll fight the best. He's not afraid to fight the best. He comes to fight. And that's what when you talked about it being potentially a classic fight, I 100% agree with you, because you got two guys who are going to bring it, two guys who are going to get it, give it everything they got, and two guys who are fearless. They'll fight anybody.
Joe, this division, the welterweight division, is so stacked with talent. There's great fights for years to come, and the younger kids are coming up. You got Victor Ortiz coming up, sensational fight. You got a lot of great guys. So listen, it's going to be a fun night. Who gets caught first? You know what I mean? That's the deal.
Right.
If Crawford catches Shawn Porter, it could be trouble for him. And I can see him catching Porter on the way in. He's a very good boxer. He's very fast. So, you just got to create the opening. If you can, he'll get a win. But, don't, knock down Shawn Porter. He is there to fight 12 hard rounds. We've seen him with the best, with Errol Spence and so many other guys. He is there at the end of the bell. So this just makes it so great. And this way, it's going to get a lot of views. I think a lot of people are going to come and see this welterweight championship fight. It's a great one.
It is going to get a lot of views, no doubt about that. It's got a lot of people pumped up. I want to talk about that undefeated factor and the confidence factor. Bring back to your career when you were undefeated, when you took that I think it was 21-0 record, 22-0 record into the ring against Ken Norton. And what the confidence level is like for an undefeated fighter. Bring us back to that time and where you were at and how what was that like? What was that like for your confidence? Did it make a difference for you?
Joe, looking back, the Norton fight was that was Mandingo. He was in great shape.
Yeah.
He had lost the title a couple of years before to Holmes. And I could have beat anybody in the world that night. That's how good I felt. I was just fit to be tied, and I was not going to be denied. And that being said, I figured I'm in for a tough fight. I'm going to go 10 rounds, but I caught him with a right hand to the body and buckled him a little bit. And I figured, let me take a little shot here. So, you don't want to punch yourself out, but I got him in the ropes. I caught up with his bobbing and weaving. Yes, he watched this, and I catch him with a solid shot, and he goes limp. Right here, limp. Right there, he's limp. He's out.
Right.
Referee can't see. He's stuck on the rope. But, the real fight in my career that I was the best for me was losing to Larry Holmes. I lost in the 13th round. I got stopped. But what I learned that night from fighting such a great champion, had we fought a rematch, and I don't know why we didn't, because in today's day, we would have a trilogy easy. I learned so much about boxing and about myself in that loss. So it's not that big deal to get a loss. You really have to have the will. If you have the will to fight, it makes you better. That's the story. So yeah, Crawford is undefeated. He's a tough guy. He's a very tough guy. He's a real throwback from the old days of the old fighters back in the old days. I think of, Colin Basilio, those kind of guys. He's relentless.
LaMotta,
but he's never really been tested yet. And he's going to get tested with Shawn Porter, because Shawn Porter's putting the pressure on him. He's got to get inside and rough up Crawford. I think he can do it. And but like I said, we have to wait till the final bell.
Right. It is a tough fight to call. Okay, so you got Crawford with the edge and power. He's. I also think by what I've seen, he's a superior boxer. He seems to be a superior boxer. Porter can be hit. He has been hit before. So having said that, I think this fight has some legs. I think it's going to last a while, but I kind of see Crawford pulling this out either by a decision or perhaps a late round knockout. What do you see him?
Well, if you think about it, Errol Spence and Showtime Shawn Porter, it was a close fight right down to the end when Porter got dropped in the second to last round, or the last round, something like that. So he's a tough kid. He's very tough. He's got a great father in his corner. He's determined. He works out. He's in great shape. He doesn't mess around. So, for some reason, I feel like he's going to get caught with a shot early on and get stunned a little bit. But I think he's going to get into his mode. He's going to find his way in, and he's going to keep his hands up and get inside to that body. If he does, it could be a game changer. So I'm still picking it as a pick'em fight. But I do feel somewhere down the road that Crawford will catch him with something. But I'm a very big Showtime Shawn Porter fan. So I'm rooting for him big time.
Well, let's see what happens, and I either way you can't go wrong. It's going to be a hell of a fight. So anyway, I want to give you some props here, Gerry. If you're following, you want to follow Gerry, you can catch him on Instagram at Gerry Cooney, at Gerry A. Cooney on Instagram, Twitter Gerry Cooney, Facebook Gerry Cooney. On Sirius XM, it's Gerry's weekly show at the fights. That's at noon Eastern on Mondays and Fridays on channel 156, Sirius XM. Don't miss it. Got to see it. Gerry, thanks for being on the show, and looking forward to catching up with you again soon.
Hey, Joe, it's great to always be with you. Listen, I was listening to you that last interview. What a great job. You're a bad man, bro. I love it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the fights, folks, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, we'll have lots to talk about next time. Thanks, buddy.
See you, bud.
The Hall of Fame. 6 new members have been enshrined into the Hockey Hall of Fame. It was a terrific night last night at the Meridian Hall in downtown Toronto. We're going to get to our guests in just a minute. The new members are Doug Wilson, the former Norris Trophy winning defenseman. He received his plaque from his former junior coach in Ottawa, Brian Killer Kilray. Nice moment for Doug Wilson. Also a lovely moment for Kevin Lowe. Lowe got his award from his former Edmonton Oilers teammate and New York Rangers teammate, Mark Messier. Lowe thanked his family for all the support. Fellow who won 6 Stanley Cups. He also gave the Leafs a little bit of a shot. Ken Holland helped lead the Red Wings to 4 cups and an unprecedented 25 straight playoff appearances. His former captain Steve Yzerman made that presentation. Kim St. Pierre backstopped Team Canada to 3 Olympic gold medals and 5 world championships. Teammate Daniel Goyette made the presentation to Kim St. Pierre, one of the greatest goaltenders who ever played for the Canadian team. 3 Stanley Cups, 4 trips to the Olympics, and 525 goals. How does that sound? Not a bad sounding resume for another member of the Hall of Fame. Credentials for Marian Hossa. His plaque was presented by former teammate and fellow Hall of Famer Nick Lidstrom. Hossa, winning 3 championships with the Blackhawks, played for a few different teams, started his career in Ottawa. Longtime Calgary Flames captain Jerome McGinley. Well, he was a consummate power forward, wasn't he? 2 times he had 50 goals or better. He hit the 40-goal mark 4 times, and on 12 occasions, he had 30 goals or better. That goes along with 2 Olympic gold medals for Jerome McGinley. Robin Jones is involved with the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Here we are at the induction ceremonies with my good pal Robin. Robin, tell me, what was one of the highlights for you tonight here at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony?
Well, it was an incredible night, a lot of passion, a lot of gratefulness for people. You can tell, as they say, they don't get here alone. There's these great journeys. So much inspiration. As they talked about, they never imagined being in the Hall of Fame. So it gives us hope. It's a true inspiration to see how their lives and their journeys, the people around them, their family, people who believed in them before they were stars. And the thing that really resonates with me is that there's a dream and there's a passion, something you love, and they never never knew where it would take them, and here they are, Hockey Hall of Fame. Doesn't get any better than that.
Okay, and what a class we have this year.
5 Canadians. And it makes you proud to be a Canadian, to know that this is our game, it's our heritage, and we're very well represented. To see a woman, the first goaltender to ever be inducted, and her speech was very powerful to women. It's incredible. And each of those contributions of those people who got here, they're really builders of our game. And they took it from the founders who helped lay down. They were inspired by those. They talked about that, the people that they were inspired by. So it's great that this continues and it'll grow. And it brings some great people, because their contributions outside of the game was just as important as what they did in the game, maybe more. And they appreciate that about who they became as human beings, good people. It tells you how important our game is. Where would they be without it? They wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be here.
That was really enjoyable.
This is for giants, and they rose to the very top. So I love them. It's great.
The Bauer family, they said goodbye to the matriarch of the family, that wonderful clan. Nancy Bauer passed away. She was a wonderful woman. She definitely will be missed. She is now reunited with another amazing person, her husband, Johnny. Two of the finest people you'll ever meet. The Maple Leafs have been on a nice roll. Morgan Riley came through with the clutch game winner in Buffalo with 11 ticks left after the Buds flittered away a 2-goal lead. That made it 8 wins in 9 games. Nice to see Joseph Woll winning in his NHL debut. He was just a wall between the pipes, wasn't he? The great Wall of Bay Street. Capable backup for Jack Campbell. Raptors 905 are off to an undefeated start, 2-0 so far in the G League. The big club is struggling, though. Raptors started a 6-game road swing with a 118-113 loss in Portland. OG Anunoby had a good night with 29 points. Scotty Barnes with a smooth 18. But the Dinos have now dropped 6 of their last 7, even though they have had some success on the road. Well, the awards keep piling up for the Blue Jays. Vlad Guerrero added another Silver Slugger trophy to go along with his Hank Aaron Award honors. Guerrero tied for the Major League lead in homers with 48. Topped the AL American League in on-base percentage with 401. Slugging percentage, 601. Led the majors with 123 runs scored. Total bases with 363. He's the youngest first baseman and youngest Blue Jay to ever win a Silver Slugger Award. Marcus Semien was named Silver Slugger Award winner as the top hitting player in the league at second base. He played 162 games, set a record for second baseman with 45 homers, 102 RBI, 115 runs, and posted an 873 OPS. In the outfield, yes, Teoscar Hernandez recorded a 296 average, 32 homers, 116 RBIs, all career best to win his second straight Silver Slugger Award. So the Jays are doing some pretty good things. The Argos have booked their ticket to the CFL's Eastern Final. They clinched a home field date in impressive fashion over the Hamilton Ticats at BMO Field. McLeod Bethel Thompson hooked up with Curly Gittens Jr. for this fourth quarter touchdown. MBT was good on 26 of 34 passes for 250 yards. And Boris Beatty kicked 5 field goals. Man, he's been good. The Toronto defense was also particularly sharp. Chris Edwards had a pick 6 and buried the Cats 31-13, and that seals up top spot in the CFL East. Denis Shapovalov came up just short in his bid for a repeat title at the Stockholm Open. The 22-year-old Toronto player dropped a 3-sets decision to American Tommy Paul in the final. He ousted fellow Canadian Felix Auger-Aliassime in the semifinals to get there. Looking forward to the Canada's World Cup soccer qualifier against Mexico in balmy Edmonton tonight. That's what I call a home field advantage. That would be a huge win for the Canadian side to beat the first place team. They would then vault into first place. Apparently, I've heard that it could be minus 16 at game time, something I'm sure the Mexicans are not really used to. And we close with a look at the folks who make this show possible. These are trusted friends, business associates, and all-around great people, and I highly recommend them all. A reminder that this show is now available on Spotify, iTunes, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, as well as the Spanglish Network and Zingo TV. Also, like and subscribe the show on YouTube. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show on YouTube. Thanks once again to Colin Doyle and Gerry Cooney for being on the show. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week when Natasha Stanishevsky joins the show. We'll see you then.
When I'm working out, I like to wear my Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show t-shirt. It makes me feel handsome and strong. If you want a t-shirt, support the show, click on the link below. Now, back to my workout. 1,761, 1,762, 1,763, 1,764.
Joe Tilley Sports is brought to you by COSA, Central Ontario Standardbred Association, providing a united voice for harness horse people racing at Ontario tracks. Check out your benefits today at COSAonline.com and check out COSA TV on Facebook and YouTube for all the latest harness news and live action updates. Live racing year-round. Go to hpibet.com for all your wagering options. Become a member today, and your first bet is free. That's hpibet.com.
Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by
Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in the early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. Brought to you by MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business consulting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the needs of our clients in the private, public, and non-for-profit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to doing business and personalized strategies to help people and organizations succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Toronto, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, our team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca to learn more.
You know, if I'm going to a public place or visiting a friend, I like to be safe and stylish. That's why I put on my Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show mask.
Come on in.
If you want to support the show, pick up a mask, click on the link below.